Hello everybody and welcome to today's video. In today's video we're going to talk about the function of the trumpet valves, we're going to be explaining the valve series, and we're going to explain why this information is important to trumpet playing. So let's get to it. So a little bit of history about the trumpet and the origination of valves. So before the early 19th century, trumpets were limited to notes of the harmonic series. We're not going to be talking about the harmonic series in detail today, so if you want to learn more about that, let me know in the comment section below and maybe I'll make another video about that. We were limited to notes of the harmonic series. So this means that we could only play notes that were available by buzzing on a specific length of tubing, like a bugle, for example, which I've got one right here. So we could only play notes that were available on this length of tubing. You can see I have no valves. To play in different keys, trumpeters would have needed to make the instrument longer or shorter, either by having different sized trumpets or by using a series of tuning crooks. So today we've got our main tuning slide, right? So if I want to play in the key of A, I have that all the way out. If I want to play in the key of B flat, I have that almost all the way in. If I want to play in the key of C, I would need to grab my C trumpet. We wouldn't have had valves like we do today. So the addition of keys and later valves allowed us to play in all sorts of keys in much friendlier registers. So the modern piston trumpet has 3 piston valves. Each piston has a series of ports that redirects the airflow through different lengths of tubing. So you can see here, kind of looks like Swiss cheese, right? So all of those different holes, when I press down my valve, when I press down that first valve, it adds that little bit of tubing to the trumpet. It opens the hole up so that the air can go through that additional length of tubing. This changes the overall length of the instrument. The first valve corresponds to the first valve slide. I'll turn my trumpet around here. First valve corresponds to the first valve slide. The second valve corresponds to the second valve slide, and the third valve corresponds to that third valve slide. When no valves are depressed, the air is traveling through the lead pipe, through the tuning crook, and then that goes through the third valve port here without going through the slide. It turns around, goes up through the second, it skips the second valve, skips the first, and then goes out through the bell. So that's the shortest length of tubing that I would be playing on. And this allows us to play notes of the harmonic series. Just like the bugle. So each time a valve is depressed, you're essentially lowering the fundamental pitch, so the lowest pitch of that harmonic series, to access different notes. So when I press down the second valve, it's a half step lower. First valve, same thing. This allows us to play all 12 tones in Western music, rather than just those notes of the harmonic series. So that addition of valves, we essentially have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 bugles built into one trumpet to access all those different notes. So let's talk about the valve series. This is the order of fingering combinations from the shortest length of tubing, no valves pressed, to the longest length of tubing, all valves pressed, or our highest note to our lowest note. So with no valves pressed, that's the shortest length, or our highest notes. All the valves pressed, that's all the tubing. That's the addition of all of these slides to make the instrument longer. This valve series descends in half steps. So we're going to start on a G. You could start on any open note, and we'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. But we're going to start on G as our open note. So this is our shortest length of tubing, and I'm going to add the next shortest length of tubing to make it a little bit longer. That's this second valve slide. You see it's connected to the second valve, so this is the second valve slide. And we also have our first connected to the first valve, and our third slide connected to the third valve. And you can see that the second is the shortest. So that is going to be the first one that we're going to press down. So if I start on G and add this tubing, we're going to go down a half step to F sharp. first valve is going to redirect the air through our next length of tubing. And you can see it's about twice as long as the second valve slide, so this is going to lower a whole step. So this length, we have 1, 2, essentially a whole step by pressing the first valve. So first valve, we get a whole step down to F. By pressing the third valve, we're going to come down 3 half steps. So the length of our third valve slide is 1, 2, 3 times the length of the second valve slide. So we're going down 3 half steps now using the third valve. Now, we normally don't use the third valve by itself because the intonation, the timbre of third valve isn't as nice as using the combination of 1 and 2. We usually use 1 and 2 for E, anything that uses 1 and 2. Third valve we don't usually use, it's a little inconsistent. So 1 and 2 is the same length roughly as the third valve slide. So we had 1, 2, 3 half steps. We have the same thing here with 1, 2, 3 half steps by adding 1 and 2 together, so we get that E. To go down 4 half steps, we're going to use the combination of the third valve slide and the second valve slide. So 1, 2, 3, 4 half steps down to E flat. Next longest length of tubing is going to be first and third together. So we're adding 5 half steps. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Down to D. And our longest length of tubing that we can add is using all 3 valves together. That will get us C sharp, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 half steps down. So to review the valve series from high to low, we have open, or 0, 2, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 1, 3, 1, 2, 3, descending in half steps. Now we started that valve series from G, but you could also use the same pattern starting from any open note to access new notes. So let's try that again. Now we're going to start from low C. The pattern is going to stay the same. Open, 2, 1, 1, 2, 2, 3, 1, 3, 1, 2, 3, but we're going to have new notes. So we'll start on low C. So by starting on any open valve combination, you can do that exact same pattern descending in half steps. Obviously, as we get higher in the harmonic series, notes are going to start to get closer together. We'll have some overlap, some different fingerings, but this pattern stays the same, and it's all in half steps. That's all you really need to remember, is that it's the same starting from any open note and that it descends in half steps. So the information in this video isn't necessarily intended to teach you every single note that you'll ever play, but instead give you the tools to understand the mechanics of the trumpet in a way that encourages you to explore and problem solve. I believe that it's extremely important for students to learn the valve series early on in their development on the instrument. Some teachers may disagree with me. They may feel that this information is too much for beginners to process, so they teach individual notes and focus on concepts such as tone and air development, which are extremely important, but they often forego those other mechanics of the trumpet and music literacy, actually being able to read and understand notes. So by learning your valve series early, you're going to have the ability to easily figure out new notes without needing to look at a fingering chart or memorize individual notes or individual scales or individual songs. You'll know how to figure things out. So if you know the fingering for G, for example, and you see a G flat, and that's a new note for you, you know you have to go down a half step. A flat lowers our note by a half step. So G is open, go down in your valve series a half step to second. There's your G flat. Same thing with, let's say, D. Let's say you know your note D, 1 and 3, and then you see a D sharp. Well, you don't know what that note is, but you do know that sharps go up a half step. So go up in your valve series 1 and 3 to 2 and 3. There's your fingering for D sharp. Using this information can help you figure things out without needing to be spoon-fed notes or look them up or have to memorize a bunch of different things. And it's going to make you more fluent. Developing fluency on your instrument doesn't mean memorizing every single little detail about music or trumpet playing, but having access to those tools and the fundamental vocabulary necessary to continue expanding your knowledge on the instrument. That being said, I hope you found the information about the mechanics of the trumpet and the valve series helpful and that you learned something new today. Obviously, there's so much more I could have covered. We could have gone so much deeper into this, but if there's anything that you think I've missed or things you'd like to learn more about, maybe there's another topic you'd like me to cover, like the Harmonic series, please leave a comment below. And also please like and subscribe if you like this video and like to see more videos like this one. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.